starting with another chapter of respiratory system from Marrow Edition 6, cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is a multi-system autosomal recessive disorder. So what we have to remember that it is a multi-system disorder and it is an autosomal recessive disorder. This I always tend to forget. I don't know how to remember it. But yeah, it is an autosomal recessive disorder. Yeah, we can remember it like we don't see lots of cases of cystic fibrosis. So, a very dumb technique, but it might work. So, which systems will be involved? It will involve the GIT, it will involve respiratory system, genitourinary system, sweat glands are affected. Fine. One of the most common life limiting genetic disorder. Oh, so it is not seen that rarely, although, after all, it is most common life limiting genetic disorder. Fine. Seen mostly in Western population. Oh, so it's less commonly seen in India. Cases continue to increase in India as well. Oh, cases are rising. CFTR gene, cystic fibrosis transmembrane regulator, that is the full form of CFTR, which is located on chromosome number 7q, codes for the CFTR protein, that is a chloride channel, and the mutation in the CFTR gene is seen in these cases, and most common mutation which is seen is F508. There is deletion of the phenylalanine at 508 position, and more than 1500 mutations have been described in this genes. What is happening is there is a mutation in the CFTR gene which is located on the chromosome number 7q, and the mutation, most common mutation which is seen is F508. That is, there is something changed in the 508 position. Phenylalanine is lost at 508. There is deletion of phenylalanine at the 508 position. That's it. What is seen in this condition? There is mucoviscidosis, that is, thick mucus secretions in the body is seen. What is happening? There is no chloride channel here in cystic fibrosis. See, here is chloride channel in the intracellular membrane, but here is no chloride channel. So I don't know how this works, but finally there is thick mucus in cystic fibrosis. If someone knows, please do explain. Oh, there is oh, it's written here. Fine, let's read. Respiratory epithelium. In normal people, what happens is there is a CFTR channel. So the chloride ions are transported from the intracellular portion into the lumen. So from intracellular portion, chloride ions are transferred to the lumen, and chloride makes the mucus thin. Oh, this is the concept that chloride makes the mucus thin. So as the chlorides are transported from the intracellular portion to the lumen, where the mucus is being secreted, so due to chloride there will be thin mucus. That's it. So it is easily expelled out by the mucociliary clearance. But in cystic fibrosis patient, there is inactive CFTR channel, so chloride ions cannot be transported into the lumen, leading to thick mucus. And mucus cannot be expelled out. This is called mucoviscidosis, and due to this, there is recurrent infections of the respiratory tract, leading to recurrent pneumonia. Fine. Because of the main thing is just chlorides are not being transported into the lumen, so there is thick mucus. That's it. Let's compare the healthy airway and a cystic fibrotic airway. Healthy smooth muscle, lumen is intact, and that there are tracheal muscle. And here there is inflammation and there is increased mucus secretion, narrowing the lumen, I guess. Yeah. Now the clinical features. We saw that it was a multi-system disorder, right? So what is happening in GIT? GIT is some gastrointestinal tract. Earliest features are seen there only. What is happening in the GIT? There is meconium ileus. That is, normally meconium is the first stool passed by a newborn baby from the small intestine secretions. But uh, let's see, it is the meconium ileus is the early manifestation. But in cystic fibrosis, meconium becomes thick, not easily expelled out, and stuck in the intestinal lumen. This leads to inspission of the thick meconium in the ileum, that is, intestinal obstruction in the ileum because of thick meconium, and the patient presents with delayed passage of the meconium and abdominal distension. Oh, that's what's happening. This is the meconium ileus. Due to thickening of the meconium, There is delayed in the passage of meconium and abdominal distension. This is the earliest feature of cystic fibrosis. What is written here is this meconium ileus is virtually diagnostic of CF, that is cystic fibrosis. How do I know this? Because I have hard copy too. Moving ahead, it presents in only 10 to 15% of the patient. This meconium ileus. What will be seen on contrast cinema? There will be a microcolon, that is large intestine appears small plus filling defects in the colon. Obstruction at the terminal ileum will be seen, and there is distended small intestine proximal to terminal ileum plus air fluid levels. In lower part of the abdomen, there is ground glass appearance due to the meconium plus air causing opacification on plain X-ray is seen. So these are the things which is seen in the contrast cinema. First is microcolon. So why is this microcolon happening? Because of this thick meconium, it causes distal ileal obstruction. That is what we read, meconium ileus, and because of very little intestinal content reaching the colon, so colon remains unused for long period of time. Right, colon remains unused. This produces a microcolon. This is disused microcolon only. Okay, and there was obstruction at the terminal ileum. This leads to distended small intestine. There is a large intestine appears small, but small intestine appears distended. This is proximal to the terminal ileum, right? And air fluid levels are also seen. Lower part of the abdomen, ground glass appearance is seen due to meconium and air causing opacification. See, in the lower part of the abdomen here, there is due to ground glass appearance due to meconium and air causing opacification on the plain X-ray. Now, second thing that is seen on the gastrointestinal tract infection. First was meconium ileus. Second, when we are going to read is constipation. Same occurs in older children. Impaction of the fecal matter in the distal part of the ileum. That is called as the distal intestinal obstruction syndrome. Again, same reason because of the thick secretion, thickening of the fecal matter. Exocrine pancreatic insufficiency is also seen. This is the third gastrointestinal manifestation. Pancreatic secretions, they become thick again because the chloride not coming into the lumen causing the thickening of the secretions. Not expelled because this is not expelled into the duodenum. So fat and fat soluble vitamins like the vitamin A, D, E, K are not absorbed, causing steatorrhea and deficiency of the vitamin A, D, E, and K. And 85% of the children have this condition, this exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, and this is the one of the most common manifestation of cystic fibrosis. Meconium ileus was present only in 15%, right? Only in 10 to 15% of the patient, but this exocrine pancreatic insufficiency in 85% of the children. What is happening? Due to this pancreatic secretions not coming into the duodenum, the fat and the fat soluble vitamins are not absorbed. So because the fat is not absorbed, it will cause steatorrhea and fat deficiency of the fat soluble vitamins. Now next, endocrine pancreatic insufficiency will also occur in the second decade. Endocrine pancreatic insufficiency, decreased insulin secretion may cause diabetes mellitus in future. Okay, because of decreased insulin secretion, also diabetes mellitus can occur. And last is the rectal prolapse, uncommon due to the early supplementation pancreatic enzyme present if at all in older children. This will be rectal prolapse might be seen. This was all that we saw the manifestations of cystic fibrosis in GIT, meconium ileus, constipation, exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, endocrine pancreatic insufficiency, and rectal prolapse. Now, the respiratory manifestations which will be seen are first is recurrent infections, second one is the nasal polyp. So, in recurrent infection, different organism causing the infection or pneumonia in a child with cystic fibrosis. In early childhood, Staphylococcus aureus will be the most common cause, and H. influenza type B. But in the late childhood or adult, Pseudomonas. Fine, you should remember this. That in the early childhood, Staphylococcus aureus, in the late childhood, Pseudomonas. because when in the late child, pseudo means false, and in the late childhood only children will start telling about false, right? Lies. This is just a dumb trick. Pseudomonas colonizes the respiratory tract and produces mucoid secretions. Forms a biofilm around the organism, provides antibiotic resistance to Pseudomonas. Okay, because of this mucoid secretions, it forms a biofilm which provides antibiotic resistance. Burkholderia cepacia increased risk of death in cystic fibrosis. Okay, so if infection by Burkholderia cepacia, it increases the risk of death. Now coming to the nasal polyp. In a child with the bilateral nasal polyp, cystic fibrosis should be evaluated. Fine. If a child presents to us with the nasal polyp itself, then cystic fibrosis should be evaluated. Fine. Other features of cystic fibrosis, uh, in biliary tract, what will happen? Biliary cirrhosis and neonatal cholestasis, that is thickening of the biliary secretion, causing the bile flow obstruction. Fine. Pancreatic insufficiency, initially it is exocrine, but later it turns to endocrine. Now we read about the respiratory also. Now coming to the genitourinary tract manifestations. All the affected males will be infertile, associated with azoospermia, failure of development of the Wolffian duct itself, and in females, decreased fertility rate will be seen. What will happen to the sweat glands? Normally, CFTR protein helps in the reabsorption of the sodium and the chloride from the sweat glands in cystic fibrosis. CFTR protein is non-functional, so there will be excessive loss of the sodium and the chloride in the sweat. So there will be salty skin and frosting of the skin. What was happening in the whole body was chloride was not released into the lumen, making the secretions thick. But what is happening here in the sweat glands is there is excessive loss of sodium and chloride in the sweat. Fine. And why is this happening? Because CFTR protein is non-functional, which was responsible for reabsorption of the sodium and chloride from the sweat glands. So there will be salty skin and frosting over the skin will be seen. Predisposed to hyponatremic, hypochloremic, metabolic alkalosis. You have to remember this because sodium and chloride are being lost, so there will be the deficiency, hypochloremic, natremic, hypochloremic, and metabolic alkalosis. Increased sweat chloride helps in the diagnosis, right? Diagnostic criteria for the cystic fibrosis: when to suspect presence of atypical clinical features like respiratory and gastrointestinal and genitourinary. All these systems are being involved. There is multi-system involvement. Then we can suspect cystic fibrosis. History of cystic fibrosis in a children, as it's autosomal recessive, so there's chance that the sibling will be affected. Positive newborn screening, that is immunoreactive trypsin test, that is a IRT test, and if in newborn screening it's present, then we can suspect. Commonly done in the Western countries, not in India. Presence of any one cystic fibrosis should be confirmed with the lab test. If any of these is present, there is presence of typical features, clinical features of these three systems. There is cystic fibrosis in sibling, and there is immunoreactive trypsin test positive. Then we have to confirm it with the labs. Now, how to do confirmation? Two elevated sweat chloride concentration more than 60 milliequivalents per liter obtained on separate days. This will confirm the cystic fibrosis. How? Two samples of sweat. There is elevated chloride levels of what? More than 60 milliequivalents per liter. Ob- uh, Obtained on separate days, then that will be confirmation for cystic fibrosis. Pilocarpine iontophoresis. Pilocarpine is pilocarpine is administered into the skin of the baby with the help of electrodes. Baby sweat will be collected in a collection device. The collection device will automatically process the levels of the chloride or identification of two cystic fibrosis mutations. On abnormal transepithelial nasal potential difference measurement, single abnormal value is sufficient. Any one lab test is positive, there will be diagnosis of cystic fibrosis will be made. First was sodium chloride one, and the second one was Identification of two cystic fibrosis mutation. This was the first one. This is the second one. Cystic fibrosis mutation is seen, and or abnormal transepithelial potential and abnormal transepithelial potential difference. So there will be a difference in the epithelial potential, nasal epithelial potential measurement. Even a single abnormal value is sufficient to diagnose cystic fibrosis. Fine. Now, how will we manage the cystic fibrosis? For respiratory care, airway clearance is the treatment. Airway clearance treatment is done like physiotherapy to remove thick mucus. Mucolytics can be given like inhaled hypertonic saline, which is a mucolytic 3% NS, and the human recombinant DNase, human dornase alpha, can be used. Human dornase alpha. Fine. This was first part, that is airway clearance can be done. Second, we can give antibiotics. Coamoxiclav can be given, fluoroquinolone or azithromycin. Coamoxiclav is amoxicillin plus clavulanic acid, preferred as the first antibiotic. Fluoroquinolone and azithromycin. Prophylaxis for the Pseudomonas infection is for prophylaxis of Pseudomonas infection. Inhaled tobramycin or inhaled azithromycin can be used, or oral azithromycin 3 times a week decreases colonization of Pseudomonas infection. Fine, this can be used for respiratory care. Now, dietary measures could be taken is high fat, protein, and calories, salt supplementation more during dehydration, because we know that NaCl is being lost, so we have to give salt supplementation. Pancreatic enzyme supplementation may be needed, that is enterically coated microspheres. It is the cornerstone of gastrointestinal management in the cystic fibrosis. Fine. What is the cornerstone? That is this the main thing, right? We saw that 85% of the patient will have pancreatic insufficiency. So we have to supplement the pancreatic enzymes. They are enterically coated, so they will be activated only after going into the uh, after passing the stomach. It is the cornerstone, fine, of in the management. This was there's something more. Fat soluble vitamin supplementation, that is A, D, E, K, should be given again, because we saw that due to pancreatic insufficiency, fat soluble vitamins will not be absorbed. Vitamin A and D are the most important supplements. In cystic fibrosis patient, we have to supplement fat soluble vitamins, right? Now the CFTR modulators increases the activity of the CFTR channel by modulating it. First one is the ivacaftor. More than 2 years of age may we can use this. Ivacaftor plus lumacaftor in more than 6 years of age. Useful in most common mutation was this one, right? 50F508 mutation cases में, and ivacaftor plus tezacaftor in more than 12 years of age. And then is triple combination therapy also, that is ivacaftor, tezacaftor, and alexacaftor, covers most of the mutation, most promising evolving treatment. Now we are done. Thank you.